Hey guys, Tutti back again. Right, this is a response video to Shenmueso, Ben. I think some people have interpreted the question different ways, which is all good. I think his general gist of it is, will the value of your retro collection rise or fall or, you know, stay as it is, etc. He highlighted a few sort of points. Super Nintendo, we all know it's gone through the roof. Mega Drive, I think, sort of tapered off a little bit, and I think it's levelled out. I don't know what else. I mean, Neo Geo AES stuff is never gonna, well, that's a stupid quote, isn't it? But that's not really dropped in value. I mean, even back in, Jesus, 2000, when I think I picked up a few of my bits, they weren't cheap. They weren't cheap then, you know. So generally, the way I look at it is, in terms of your retro collection, right? I would personally say, right, what are you collecting it for? What is the reason why you buy all this shit? Yeah, if you're buying it because you think it's going to be worth money in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, then I think you're mugging yourself off. That's not to say it won't, but I just think that's the wrong reason to do it. So for me, the fact if you know, all this ends up being worth peanuts, pennies, it don't matter. That's not what I've got it for. I've got it for me to enjoy, and for me to be mine, if that makes sense. I'm not, well, I don't think, I'm not a hoarder. I know I'm not a hoarder. I hoard video games, ones that I need and collect and want, but I don't hoard all video games. You know, I don't not get rid of anything. As you know, I've done trades, so, you know, fine lines, I think, fine lines. I mean, the wife would call me a hoarder. So, to his question, in terms of the value, like I've always said this, and I'll say it about anything, something's only worth a given price if someone's willing to pay it. Now, more fool them if there's people out there that pay over the odds. Each to their own. You know, people have obviously got indisposable incomes and they're able to do that. Great, that's fine. But the intrinsic value of anything is only worth what someone's going to pay for it. So, going forward, like, I mean, how sort of Ben mentioned it was like he doesn't collect for the 8-bit. He's only a 16-bit guy. So going forward, that sort of window, or I suppose if you're looking to sell, if you're buying all this stuff to sell it, or for it to make you know, to sit on it for 10 years to make money off it, I think what the way I interpret it was the window of opportunity would be closing. I think that's what he was getting at, because, you know, we're like 30-somethings. If you go back to when we were kids, it's the 16-bit and probably before, depending on, you know, the varying degrees of when you got into gaming. So as you get older, as you get to 40, 50, 60, are you going to be collecting these games? I don't know. Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you ask people who collect old train sets? Because they don't seem to give a shit, so I personally don't really see much of a difference. But having said that, it depends, because gamers nowadays, people who play games nowadays, right, and there's no disrespect to modern gamers, they're all the fucking same. They're all just shooting shit. They're just different skins. They just reskin the game, stick a couple of different walls and whatever up, and run around and shoot for stuff. I don't. That's probably me being very, very, very general. But if you look at some of the, you know, the sort of game library on some of these systems, there ain't much variation compared to back in the day. They were, and I think companies were allowed, and that they were able to risk and try and experiment with stuff. Now I think the game studios, like EA and that, you can't do it. They're not allowed to. It's too much of a risk, etc. Probably the only one that still does not push the envelope but try the stuff is Nintendo. That has to be said. So anyway, I digress. So going back to buying stuff with a view to selling it later on, or not a view to, but with a sort of second view. I'll get all this now, I'll enjoy it for 10 years, 20 years, then it'll be worth 4, 5, 6, 7 times more than what it is. The way I would look at it, the only would be if the people that are buying the stuff now, i.e. us, if we no longer existed, who would buy it? And I think that's kind of what he's getting at. Some of the youth, you know, younger lads that we've known here, they may do, but that pool of people, that's what I'm looking for, that pool, or that resource of people that are willing to spend that money would, you would think, get smaller as time went on, because they would get other stuff. They'd have kids, they'd have families. The money would dry up. They may then just not get interested in it, fall out of gaming. You don't know. So, I mean, for me, it doesn't matter, because, you know, unless I cark it tomorrow, which could possibly happen, then the wife will just fucking give it all away anyway. No. But it's not going to be sold off by me in that respect. This is not an investment. I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it for me to have them. I suppose if it depends how big your collection is, like Ninja Bear Hooks do. He had a vast amount of stuff that he basically didn't want, so he trimmed it down. He's probably cashed in. That's not to sort of say in 5 or 10 years time later it would have been worth triple, but you don't know that. So I think in terms of the value of your stuff in the current market, that's what it's worth, give or take. To sort of make generalisations, or to sort of go back to eBay 10 years ago and compare it and say, oh hey, look, this, you know, Super Mario World, sorry, on the Super Nintendo box complete was only £5. Now it's 35-40 quid. So if you know, I'm shit at maths, but do whatever percentage increase it is and then go forward again, it's going to be worth that much. I don't think it's as simple as that. That's kind of my sort of take on what Ben was getting at. It's probably not to say that's what he's getting at, but that's my view on the value of retro items, for want of a better word. PS2 may be the next, or PS1 may be the next, you know, boom area, I suppose, for want of a better word, because I know my game, I think because it's now become well, they've all become games, haven't they? So as a game station, there's no PS2 stuff. There's no PS2 stuff. So that may be where the next sort of fuel, if you like, to fuel, you know, because I mean PS1 came out when I was 20 or something, or 21, something like that, I can't remember. And I'd sort of drifted from gaming anyway. The only reason why I bought it was Final Fantasy VII. So I drifted from gaming a little bit at that point anyway, because I was going out, getting pissed. And so, but sort of kids, maybe if they were 12 or whatever, so do the maths, they'll be the ones that be buying the PS1 games maybe in their sort of early 30s, when you sort of have a bit more disposable income. So maybe it's just going to work in a cycle perhaps. But like Ben was sort of saying, the old Atari 2600s, they're not going to be interested in buying them. You would think, on the whole, that group of people, that what's the word? Demographic, that's the word. That demographic of people that would purchase them would be getting smaller, because we're probably going to die, basically. So I don't know. The other flip side of all of this is to basically go, right, okay, well, what about all the old antiques now? What about stuff that's classed as an antique? People still go out and buy them. They didn't fucking have them when they were kids, but it's an interest, and I think, depending on how you look at it, if it's a subject that you're interested in and it sparks your interest, I don't know. It's one of them weird things, because you might just end up with some guy in 20 years' time who wants to go out and get the whole Atari 7800 collection, and he was never born when it came out. He wasn't born for 20 years after, or something like that. You don't know. You don't know. But I think the demographic of people that would purchase them games is, by natural selection, going to get smaller. So, I mean, the other way to look at it, which I watched Top Gear last night from Sundays, is they talked, funnily enough, about if you bought, I don't know, I'm not very good on my cars, it was a certain car that was, you could buy it for 10 grand or 20 grand or something, and now it's worth 150 grand. So it depends. It really just depends on who you're selling it to, you know, and if you're buying stuff to sell it, or to hoard it to sell it later on, then you may be onto a loss. I get all this shit and this crap because it makes me feel good, and it gives me something to do, and it keeps me out of trouble. And it's mainly partly as well because I never had half of it, well, I didn't have any of this when I was a kid. So it's that opportunity to sort of grasp back at stuff that's not going to cost me a great deal of money, let's be honest, in the grand scheme of things. 40, 50 quid now for a new game, you know, 50 quid could go a long way to buying some older stuff. That, you know, it just makes me, it's a feel-good factor for me. So I have no problems, I have no qualms in doing that at all. So, bit of a waffle really. I don't know if it makes any fucking sense, but that's my take on the value. The intrinsic value of anything is what someone's willing to pay for it, apart from gold. But it's a buyer's market. It's a buyer's market. So yeah, hopefully I'm going to sort out how to append this or put this as a reply to Ben's, because I've never done one of these before. So take it easy, YouTube. And if you think I'm full of shit, which I probably have been, then let me know down below. See you later.